Welcome to Conversations with Cox and Kielseth, and to be more specific, that is filmmaker Alex Cox and myself, film curator Pablo Kielseth. Alex will join us by phone from his home in Oregon, while I sneak away from my office to call him from one of the projection booths used by the International Film Series, which has been screening foreign and independent movies at CU Boulder since 1941. We will keep our chats to about 20 minutes as we discuss whatever movie-related topics grab our fancy. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, action.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Alex, nice to hear from you. We had a little break there, and in that time, let's see, you saw Valley of Gwangi at a private screening.
I did. And you went to Sundance.
And I went to Sundance, but what I wanted to ask you specifically about your screening experience with the Valley of Gwangi was, as you know, when you were here, I used to show 16 millimeter films in my backyard. That's right. And we could sometimes have as many as 75 people back there, and we go reel to reel with one projector. So as a fan of kind of holding 16 millimeter screenings for friends and whoever, I wanted to actually know, what did it look like? What were the details of your screening? Was it a living room? Where was the projector? Was there a booth? That kind of stuff.
No booth, projector in the living room, projecting over the sofa, Sally Cruikshank, Phil Tippett and me on the sofa, and John Davison at the projector.
And it's one projector. So would you take, or did he put it on a take-up reel and show from beginning to end, or would you do breaks between?
He had it on 3 reels, and we took breaks. And it was the first time he'd run it, so it actually had chunks of black cut into it for commercial breaks, which he removed before he sent it back to the archive.
Where does he have his archive? Do you know?
He and Joe Dante in Hollywood, in is it that great big the Beacons building or something, or somewhere? But there's some archive in Hollywood where they just have an enormous holding of 16 millimeter and some 35 millimeter prints.
So it's properly a climate controlled kind of situation. Probably.
I imagine so. I imagine maybe it's the Academy. Maybe he gives them all to the Academy. I'm not sure. But I think
that actually would make sense.
Yeah, it's all movie oriented though, the storage. So I'm sure it's pretty good. But when I was a student at UCLA, we had to go and open the cans of nitrate film, and even some people, I think it was really only the most expendable students. They got to sit in that room and and roll through these prints of Nosferatu and stuff on nitrate, and hope they didn't burst into flame.
Well, were you cleaning them, or what were you doing with these nitrate prints?
Well, the idea was that they needed, even if they weren't being screened, they still needed to be rolled through every so often, so that they wouldn't just kind of start to turn into dust and jam together, so
they wouldn't get sticky. Yeah. I've seen that where they start to stick together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and start to deteriorate into quite volatile dust, and the dust could catch on fire just exposed to the air. That was how. Not every nitrate film was like that, but if they were stored, in not good circumstances, they could become very volatile.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway.
So, getting back to the Valley of Gwangi, I have to say I was surprised at the difference in your enthusiasm level toward it in terms of before, when you were going back on your memory of it, and then you screened it, and I'm going to guess that the peanut gallery was not very kind to it, or what was the experience?
That's the thing, because because Phil Tippett knew it was like a kind of worked for Ray Bradbury, not Ray Bradbury, sorry, Ray Harryhausen, the stop motion animator of the film, and so he knew him, and John Davison had also had experience as a producer working with him, and so they were both kind of, oh no, he's phoning it in, man, and indeed he was phoning it in. The Styracosaurus versus Allosaurus battle is very similar to 1 million years BC, and very similar to the animal world. It's not a great advance, the Pteranodon isn't very exciting either. Takes away the little Mexican boy. But the sort of the the death of the Allosaurus in the cathedral, at least they're trying for something. It doesn't quite succeed, but I was definitely prejudiced against it by the two industry professionals who were so rightly dismissive of it.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like you were at least having a good time while watching the movie.
Oh yeah, and we had commercial breaks too, and so at least John knew he had to take out all this black lead for the next lucky viewer. You could rent it and screen it in your backyard.
I actually would like to see it because I have not seen it. And then you went to visit your mom.
I went to visit my mother, who's very, very old, in the old folks' home on the banks of the River Thames, and saw Ed Tudor Pole, and Margaret Matheson, my producer friend, and spent a lot of time on the aeroplane, which I know is environmentally unforgivable, but anyway, did, and watched films.
And what you see?
Okay, on the way out, I obviously was trying to get to sleep on the way out. And luckily, I had 3 seats, so I could lie down flat on the seats, curled up. And so I watched 2/3 of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
2/3?
Which is so long, the long version. I mean, it's 3 hours long. So I saw about 2 hours of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
On a plane. Now, planes are getting better about not cutting stuff off, but was it proper aspect ratio, or was it flat, so you only got to see the bad, or maybe the good? But
no,
not the
that's right. It was okay. I mean, they were making an attempt at showing it in it wasn't really, it certainly wasn't 235, but it was something approaching. It was something a little bit tighter, a little bit more widescreen than 1:185. And so even though the screen was a sort of somewhat, I don't know, the screen was kind of a square, not a square box, but more towards 4:3 than 16:9. But it was a long, thin, tiny little screen. But on the way back, because The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is okay, but it does go on a lot. It's a slow-moving film, And at the end of it, you're thinking, I mean, it's terribly entertaining, but it's also entertaining like a big piece of cake, because at the end of it, what was all that about? What have I learned? It's about nothing except a big consumption of candy, But anyway, so I saw 2/3 of that, fell asleep. On the way back, I saw a film I'd never seen before, It's a Wonderful Life.
You've never seen It's a Wonderful Life?
No, I had never seen it. I'd been put off by the title.
What? If it had been called It's a Crappy Life, you would have been first in line?
Yeah, it's a miserable life, then I would have. Yeah.
Now hold on a second, because I've heard you say that you think that we are living on heaven on earth right now. You actually love life. So I feel like you exude the It's a Wonderful Life vibe in a way. So I'm conflicted here. What's going on?
Well, I thought, why I watched it, really why I wanted to watch it was because I read something on the internet a couple of weeks previously about Jimmy Stewart, about how he came back from the war, the Second World War, with PTSD. That was never diagnosed in those days. But he was absolutely a total wreck. Because he'd been like flying airplanes and stuff and bombed the wrong city and seen his friends all get killed. And he was totally messed up and really gaunt. And, and he was a big hero and nobody would give him a job because he was too kind of freaked out, And then Capra came and said, this is the only chance you're going to get. And Stewart goes, I want to play this part. This guy's all messed up, And, and that was why he got the job. And he's just wonderful. It's the best thing I ever saw him do. That I can remember.
There's a lot of people who would agree with you, and I actually, everyone loves that movie. So but I shouldn't say everybody, because I still have yet to hear what you thought of the movie as a whole.
Oh, it's great, isn't it? It's charming. I mean, it's like Sullivan's Travels. I mean, it's just charming. You can't not like it. It's very good. Very good.
I'll use that as a jumping point to. I actually only want to talk about one movie that I saw at Sundance. I'll save maybe for next week. I'll talk about others, but I wanted to give a special shout out to my absolute favorite film at Sundance, and it's the latest film by Kirsten Johnson, who is a documentary filmmaker who some might know for Camera Person, but her latest film is called Dick Johnson is Dead. And it's a documentary that is about her father, who is, he's on he's in the twilight of his life, and he's got a dementia, and they know that time is short, and it was absolutely, obviously a poignant and, but there's a lot of love and humor in this documentary. And actually, it's one that everyone will be able to see eventually, because I think Netflix picked that one up or is releasing it. So that is something that people will be able to see on Netflix. Dick Johnson is Dead. I highly, highly recommend that.
I'm astonished. You, a hardened cynic, a hardened pessimist of the first order, have responded so warmly to a film which sounds to the way you describe it to be something perhaps potentially sentimental.
I know you hate sentimental movies, but this one, it was just. Well, let me preface everything by saying that the daughter asked her father if he would be okay if they film him, even though everyone knows that he's dying, and he said yes, and so everyone's on board, and they go about it clear-eyed. So I actually do not. I mean, yes, it's you can't help but have some aspects be sentimental, but it comes from a place of pure love and good humor. And anyway, I really thought very highly of it. Now,
great.
Unfortunately, I will tell you something else that is dead, and that is this is the first Sundance, and I've been going for almost 30 years, but this is the first Sundance where when the volunteers who went up in front of the movie to ask people, in the past they would ask people to turn off their phones and period, no bones about it. This was the first time that the volunteers were going up there, and these are industry screenings. I have to say that these are not the public screenings. These are industry screenings, are ones that are being attended to by people in the business, exhibitors such as myself, as well as distributors, as well as probably producers, as well as reporters. And I do understand that especially the reporters or the film critics, obviously they have reason for wanting to be able to possibly get on their devices. Well, their lot has certainly won out, because the volunteers were basically getting up in front of the movies and saying, please turn the ringer off on your phone so it doesn't make any sound while you're working on your devices. So they were actually giving the green light for people to just turn on their phones.
Or sit there on your laptop.
I saw some laptops on during the movies, but I will tell you this: it was the first time that for about every single movie that I watched, everyone except for one movie, and actually it was the Dick Johnson is Dead. It had everyone in there. That particular film is the only one that was dark throughout the film, where it clearly had everyone's attention.
Interesting.
Undivided attention.
Yeah.
All the other movies that I saw, about 25 of them, all those other films had at least 6 people playing with their phones during the film. And I can guarantee you they were not all of them film critics writing notes or anything like that.
Yeah.
These are people who know that they've just got allowance to turn on their phones, and they're just texting left and right. I had, during a screening of Bad Hair, which was actually a film I really enjoyed, by the writer-director of Dear White People. It's a campy horror film, set in 1989, that kind of pays homage to like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and kind of Brian De Palma films. I couldn't help but think of like Basket Case myself. It's a horror film with obvious sort of social issue themes. The woman next to me was texting on her phone, and she brought out her phone 16 times during the course of the film, and she was sitting right there to my left. Anyway, so that's the sad state of affairs that I have to say for the Sundance industry screenings, which make me wonder if I even want to attend those anymore, because I'm sure it's nowhere near as bad for the public screenings, where people hopefully are still somewhat respectful for the movies.
Well, they paid for their tickets too.
Yeah, and they a hefty price. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, you know, I will mention just this. This will be the last movie I mention because I'll leave the rest for next week. But there was a very interesting doc that, well, it was in the doc section of Sundance called "Bloody Nose, Empty Pockets," and the story about it is it chronicles the last 24 hours of a Las Vegas bar. Only the bar, it turns out, isn't in Vegas. It's actually New Orleans, and it's not a strict dock because it actually cast out the barflies. But what it is, it's real barflies playing themselves, and I just couldn't help thinking, God, this would be a great double feature with Last Night at the Alamo. And I don't think I think I meant to show you that one while you were out here, but I don't think I ever got a chance.
No, and the other film I haven't seen, I've never seen Barfly with Mickey Rourke and Faye Dunaway, which I really should see because I love her and he's often very interesting.
Yeah.
Is Barfly good?
I like Barfly, but I think the other film that this would be really well paired up with is, remind me, directed by John Huston, starring Stacy Keach.
Oh, Fat City.
Both love. Fat City, yeah.
And they end up in the bar.
It would be, it'd be perfect with Fat City.
Yes, that's a wonderful film.
Yeah. So they're actually our friend Barack over at the Texas Theater. I think he might be doing a cluster of films with these titles in mind.
Excellent. Well, that's a good theater. Texas Theater, Dallas. Excellent, very interesting and historic theater. Okay, 2 minutes, 2 films, because I saw 2 other movies on the plane.
All right, go for it.
Wild, which was a little bit disappointing. I thought, obviously the actor did a tremendous job, but the natural beauty of the Pacific Coast Trail wasn't even touched upon. I think they were quite lazy in their choices of locations. And Cool Hand Luke. Wow.
You've seen that one before. Have you not seen?
I've
seen that one before?
Years ago when I was a boy, I saw it on television.
Yeah.
But to see it, and you don't really know what you're doing when you're a young boy, but seeing that film and appreciating the acting of not only of Paul Newman, who is incredible, but everybody in it, very good. It's very boy. There's only 2 women in it, and one of them is his mother, who then goes and dies, But it's just, I just really enjoyed it. It was a very good film.
Oh, it's in that top list for 1967, which I think I mentioned actually when we were going through the years I was born. So,
isn't that funny? It was on your list. Isn't that fun? Yeah. Well, you're quite right to put it there because it's a very good film. I really enjoyed watching that.
Yeah, that's one I'd love to show in the backyard if I can get my hands on a nice 16 print.
It'd be fun.
I might have to bug your buddy over there.
I'm sure that John would lend you some prints. I mean, you're a legitimate enterprise. He knows he'll get them back untrammeled.
I don't know. 16 millimeter film collectors. They're a unique bunch.
He has no intention of ever taking Guanji out of the can again. So I'm sure you could get him to lend you Guanji.
Okay, well, maybe I'll start out with Guanji and then go from Guanji to Cool Hand Luke. That's going to be quite the spread.
I wonder if he's got it. I'll ask him. All right.
Perfect. All right, Alex, good to talk to you as always.
Nice
Say hi to Todd
you
for
too.
me.
I certainly will. And please, as always, thank Jason for his tremendous efforts in the control room.
Yep, he's right here by my side, giving the thumbs up. So, yeah. All right.
No, you have to pretend there's a control room. You have to pretend that, he's in a glass booth looking at you and giving you the thumbs up.
Yeah, well, we're going to do a lot of pretending. For
okay.
Sure. Okay. All right. Talk later.
Talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Ciao.
And cut. Okay, that's a wrap.
Thanks again for joining Alex Cox and myself today. I'd like to thank Jason Phelps for handling the audio and Ted Thacker for letting us use the intro to his song, The Ballad of Slim Cessna, for the musical cues that bookend these conversations. Don't forget to go out there and watch movies in a larger-than-home venue. It's what brings us all together to see movies the way they were meant to be seen, on the big screen as we sit next to strangers, neighbors, and friends.